Hi, I'm Adam Drake from Mugen Seiki Racing, and today I'm going to talk about maintenance for CVA style drive shafts. So I'm going to start by just removing the lower pillow ball from the arm. This will just allow you to kind of get access to the CVA. You can pull it off a couple of different ways, but I usually just remove the pillow ball from the lower front arm. Swing that out of the way. Take off the wheel hex. And while you have this all apart, it's always good to just kind of go ahead and check the bearings real quick. Make sure everything's free. If the bearings are gritty, you can go ahead and clean them and re-oil them so that they're in good shape for the next race. But basically, I'll just take and completely disassemble the CVA. And you'll see when I wipe it here on the towel, there'll be just a little bit of kind of like grease and dirt, gunk. I like to take a Q-tip and just clean any of that kind of dirt and grime from the axle, the CVA, the barrel, pretty much from everything. You want to get any dust and dirt that could be kind of acting or working as sandpaper from all the moving parts. From there, I'll just take a little bit of power shot, spray off each of the parts to again remove any of the dust and dirt or kind of old nasty grease. And the more often you service or clean the CVAs, the longer they'll last. If you don't take them apart and serve some too often, what happens is that grease kind of like almost turns to just a dirty paste because of dust and debris that gets in there, and it'll just wear the parts a lot more. I also like to take a little bit of Scotch-Brite and just kind of clean up the axle surface as well as the larger 15 by 21 by 4 bearing surface. Just makes it a little bit easier to kind of get the bearings on and off. From there, I use the Mugen super joint grease, and you don't need much, just a little bit to have a little bit of lubrication for the parts. The main thing is to coat the barrel really good, and then kind of the outside of the ball. And again, you don't need a lot. If you put too much grease, it ends up being more of a mess and more of a hassle when you go to clean it and service it the next time. So just a little bit, just enough to lubricate the part, spin it, make sure everything is nice and free. And then from there, I'll just take a paper towel and kind of wipe off a little bit of the excess grease. And then you can go ahead and put it back in the vehicle. With the rear of the car, I normally don't run any grease. If I do, it's very, very little. And the reason for that is I like a little bit more mechanical bind in the rear of the car. It helps give it a little bit more traction and also a little bit more support when landing jumps. But in the front, you always want to make sure that these are greased, mainly because of the amount of steering throw and the amount of movement that the drive shaft goes through. So again, keep these clean and they'll last a lot longer, and also you'll have better performance. The other thing that I like to check when I'm servicing the CVAs is just to check the pins. If they're getting kind of flat spotted and worn, I'll go ahead and press the pins out and put new pins in. And when you put new pins in, you'll need to run, like with electric, maybe 2 battery packs for them to kind of fully seat in with nitro, maybe a couple tanks. So 15-20 minutes of running and they'll be seated back in. And the newer pins will also kind of help the suspension be a little bit freer and accelerate better through bumps. but again, they will need to break in so you get that mechanical bind and traction back. Another thing I like to do with my drive shafts as well as my out drives, when I fully disassemble my car, you kind of have everything laid out on your table, and you want to make sure that your out drives go back in the same position that they came off the car, as well as the drive shafts. So the way that I mark my vehicles is driver side front would be number 1, passenger side front number 2, driver side rear number 3, and passenger side rear number 4. So I do that for the drive shafts as well as the out drives. On the drive shafts, I'll just mark a little number, and I do the same thing on the out drives. Again, it just makes it, once you rebuild your car and you put it back together, you don't have that kind of new feeling again. Drive shafts and out drives are all broken and put back together the way that you've been running them.